Thank you, good doctor. It is so wonderful to see all of you here today and all of you who are at home. Kim, great to see you. Brandy, great to see you. Great to see all of you. These folks are family. Let me introduce Shawn Perry. I call him the man in black. We had that conversation this morning, and he wears black for all of those who are underserved and certainly for the seniors that he serves very well. He's the executive producer and host of the Senior Zone, a weekly radio program dedicated to serving needs of the older adult community, which I am part of and proudly part of that community. He's worked tirelessly to promote older adults' well-being and uniting seniors ages 50 plus with tips and directions to senior programs and services, tools and resources, events, advice, and cultural forums. You can catch Senior Zone every Monday, by the way, at 10 a.m. Eastern on WYCB 1340 AM, or you can go to www.myspiritdc.com and listen live. Everyone, Shawn Perry.
Thank you, Dr. Gardia. Will my panelists please start making their way to the panel? Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, panelists, audience, I would like to extend a warm welcome to each of you as we gather here to dive into a deeply important and oftentimes overlooked part of life, and that is end-of-life planning. I am your moderator, as Dr. Gardia just mentioned. I am Shawn Perry, and I am truly honored to be here, part of this discussion today. End-of-life planning is a topic that touches all of us at some point in our lives, either personally or through experiences of our loved ones. It's about making choices and having resources and support to help us navigate this challenging journey with dignity and compassion. Today, we are privileged to talk with our village. Did you hear what I just said? With our village. We have a panel of partners who will shed light on this vital subject, and we will also explore the incredible work of Compassion and Choices, an organization dedicated to ensuring that individuals have the power to chart their own course when it comes to end-of-life decisions. Now, let's dive into this crucial conversation with our esteemed panelists. We have Dr. Faye Williams, International President of the Dick Gregory Society. Welcome, Dr. Williams. We have to her right, Dr. Beverly Morgan, board member of the Black Nurses Association, also a member of the African American Leadership Council. And to her right, Dr. Gregory Bolden, Community Initiatives Program Manager with the Center for Black Health and Equity, also a member of the African American Leadership Council. And virtually, I believe, we have, well, I'm not believing, I see it. We have Lillie Tyson Head, President of Voices for Our Father's Legacy Foundation. Panelists, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's just dive right into it. Give them a round of applause. All right, question. We're going to start off with the panel. We often hear about the importance of compassion in end-of-life care. Can you share, each of you, your work with Compassion and Choices and what brought you here? I'll start with you, Dr. Williams.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, everybody, and good morning. I first of all met Wendy Miner, and she invited me and told me about Compassion Choices, gave me a wonderful lunch, so that helped. And I was in the midst myself of having some challenges. My mom had recently made her transition. So I was remembering what we did with my mom, and she told us as we were growing up that she was going to live until she was 100. She always said, don't worry about me, if she wasn't feeling well. So when I met Wendy and I learned about Compassionate Choices, I thought back about what we did with my mom just shortly, less than 2 years before I met Wendy. And mother finally became ill. But before she did, she had written out all of her instructions of what she wanted, and they were in her Bible. She was very much, into the church, and she wanted to stay at home. That was the main thing. She told us about that. So we, along with her help, made it possible for her to stay at home when she finally became a little bit ill. And all of us decided to come home at the time that we thought she was perhaps going to be making her transition, because I had a sister in Houston by the name of Siv, and we call her Miss Church Lady. So she always knew what was happening with everybody, whether they were sick, whether they were going to be transitioning in the next week or what have you. So it so happened a week before, she did tell us, I think we all need to come home. We were seven girls, and one sister's deceased, but we all came home. And sure enough, that was the week. We had an opportunity to stay with mother who had, home health care people who came in to help her. We had sisters. Each of us had been coming home to spend some time with her from California, from DC, from Houston, from everywhere. We took the time to spend our time with mother, and we were very happy that we did. And she was well taken care of because everybody in the community loved her. And she had all these daughters who were always there too. Mm-hmm. So I had the honor of sleeping in the room with her the night that she passed away. And my sister kept telling me, this is it, it's gonna happen. Sure enough, the next morning, all of her children were home, her nieces, nephews, grandchildren, everybody. And we were standing around the bed, just chatting because mother was, just kind of sleeping that week. And we were all standing around the room, and I went over and I put my hand on her heart. We kept talking. And then she opened her eyes. She looked around the room and she closed them again, and she was gone. But we were kind of prepared for it because my Miss Church Lady sister had told us that all the symptoms were there. And we had also prepared for a funeral service, and I'll talk about that when you ask me that question.
I'm gonna come back to you.
All right.
I promise.
Okay.
So Lillie, may I call you Lillie? I call you Miss Lillie. Is that okay?
Hello. Yes, you may call me Lillie, or you may call me Miss Lillie. There is no problem.
Are you on mute, Lillie?
No, I'm not on mute. Can you hear me?
We hear you now. We hear you now. So what brought you and your work to Compassion and Choices?
Well, I must first say thank you for having me as a part of this summit and to participate in this conversation about the end of life training. Excuse me. I met Miss Donna Smith, who's the director of diversity and inclusion, in 2021 at the Black Legislators Conference in Atlanta. And then a year later, she invited me to come to Washington to speak with the staff for Black History Month. So that's what brought me there. And I'm deeply grateful for her to bring me to this opportunity. I like to say is that Dr. Williams that had just spoken. Am I getting the right name? I appreciate your story about your memories and your experience and the blessed opportunity that you had with your mother. I too had a similar experience with my mother. And that's what actually connected and brought me to Compassion and Choices. After I was invited to participate in the Black History program, I really thought about how important it was to have plans in place. I thought I knew at first, but having interactions and looking more into how Compassion and Choices work and what they advocate for, I thought I need to, or I think I need to do a little bit more. So I appreciate that opportunity. My mother, when my mother passed, 2 nights before she passed, I too was sleeping in my mom's room before she died. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, my mom asked me to get her out of the bed, or sit her up on the side of the bed so that she wanted to rest. And as we sat on the side of the bed, my mom asked me if she was dying. And I cannot phantom me in being in myself, being able to tell my mother, yes, you are dying. And I contribute that to the Holy Spirit because it was a calm and it was peaceful. There was nothing frantic about it at all. And this, I realized, was just as important, even more so, is being prepared or planning for the end of life, if possible, so that you are at peace with yourself as you are departing. And that peace that you have is also shared by your loved ones that you're leaving behind. So to me, that's very important and the utmost. After we had finished talking, my mom said to me, she says, I'm dying and I'm ready. And that's something that I would like to leave with everyone today in planning for the end of life. Remember to consider, think about what Miss Callahan said, and that is living each day in preparation for the end of life. So I am now actively interested and very much want to be a part of more of the activities and events that Compassion and Choices are having. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your work and involvement with Compassion and Choices as well, Ms. Lillie. Beverly Morgan, Dr. Beverly Morgan, what brought you to Compassion and Choices?
So I had the pleasure of meeting Brandy and Wendy one evening, and they told me about the mission for Compassion and Choices. The first thing I thought, as being a member of the National Black Nurses Association, I said, you've got to meet all the nurses there, because this is something that, a word that we have to get out, make sure that they understand the significance of the work that was being done. Long story short, we brought them to the conference. They made a tremendous impact. We made it part of our national initiative to go out and discuss with our members per chapter what advanced care planning was. And that has been an amazing focus, and it's still in existence today. Being a nurse of over 30 years is just amazing work to be done. I've had the pleasure of being a part of the palliative care team at Georgetown University Hospital and being one of the nurses at Washington Home and Hospice. And those experiences were amazing. So to be able to empower people to control their end of life choices and options in the same manner and with the same respect and dignity in which they live their lives is amazing. And as a nurse coming into either their home or just their lives, wherever that may be, and share with them the different options that are available, it's almost an epiphany how you can turn the light on to make sure that they still are in control of the way that they live their life. And I could just tell you about this one experience. I happened to be working on the weekend at Georgetown University Hospital, and I went in to see the patient and the family, and the daughter said to me, she says, they've called hospice to come in to take my father home. She said, but I don't think he's going to make it. Well, Georgetown is a religious hospital. So they have, as part of the care team, a pastor. So I called the priest, and he was taking too long. So the daughter said to me, can you come in? I said, absolutely. I said, tell me what you need. We sat at his bedside. She was on the left and I was on the right. She says, I just think you should pray. I said, you know what? My father's a minister. I said, and I'm going to give you all I got. So we started to pray. And I said to her, I said, do you feel like we're at a good place right now? She said, yes. I went back to the nurses. I said, let me just call and make sure that they understand the urgency. This is happening now. And when I went back to her, we just held his hand as he transitioned. And it just put me at a place.
All right, you got to stop, Dr. Moore. You're going to make me cry up here, but I get it.
Just put me at a place of knowing God had me there for a reason.
Yeah.
And I was grateful to have helped him with that transition.
Right. And you know, and you help others, you're helping yourself as well.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
it brings that kind of joy, you know, to us all. I'm not trying to preach. I'm gonna say that for the preachers, you know, right now. So I'm trying to keep it moving right now, but I'm not being sexist. But Dr. Bolden, I saved you for last on this panel right now, because I know you got a story as well. What brought you to CNC, Compassion and Choices?
Well, Compassion and Choices has worked with the Center for Black Health and Equity for a number of years. I met Wendy and I met Brandy. I think we first met in 2018 at our national conference, and they were so impressive. But our deputy director, Shantae Keith, introduced me also to Compassionate Choices. And I just sat on the panel for her when she was out ill, and I stayed. They provided an opportunity for us to engage and to move forward with our complete understanding about end of life and how we can treat this equitable. And so it actually helped me out. In the last 18 months, we've lost our patriarch and our matriarch of our family. My grandmother's first cousin, Leroy, he was 103. And when he was 102, we all got together and we recorded him. He gave us information, and he said, and he was still working out 3 days a week at 102. And what he did was he said, I wanted to live to be 103. He lived to be 103, and then he moved on, and he just came. He said, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. And we met, and we had an understanding and said, okay, he's lived a good life, but everything was in place. Yeah. His burial expenses, his where he wanted to be buried, what he wanted to be buried in, his all of his assets, everything was already in place. The same thing happened with my mother, who was 92. And we had an opportunity to all sit down and have a conversation. She had a conversation with each of us individually, and then she had a conversation with us collectively. And me working in the health field, when she went into the hospital, I said, Mom, I'm going to come, I'm going to visit you. I looked at her charts, I saw what she was going through, I saw that what she had been going through. And when she transitioned, there was really no sadness because we had prepared. Yeah. As a matter of fact, a few months before she passed, maybe 6 months before, she called up my cousin, who was a pastor. He said, I need you to call the funeral director. He said, for what? He said, I picked out my casket. Here's the one I want. And so being the good nephew that he was, he called the funeral director who had known us all of our life. And the first question is, did she pass? And he said, no, she's still alive, but she wanted me to call you to tell you which casket she wanted, which dress she wanted, you know. And so when it came down, when she did pass, all we had to do was collectively, between the four of us, the four children, just write out a check for her funeral. And she had already had insurance, so it wasn't difficult. Yeah. The whole process, and because of Compassionate Choices and giving us an understanding of what we needed to do prior to, because there's been situations where this didn't happen like this. But we were able to walk through and talk about it, and we were able to move the process so smoothly. People were amazed. Yeah. But everything was in place. And because Compassionate Choices is here to help educate our community, help educate us, and help us in understanding and sharing within our village, because we don't just keep this to ourselves. We share this with our village so that we can get a better understanding about the transition process, because death is not the end.
Yeah. And that's why we're here, right? To have this discussion, not for ourselves. We get it. Mm-hmm. I think we all get it, right? And we've all come here on, and down a unique path, right? Mm-hmm. But we're all on the same road now, all on the same journey. And we want others to get on that road too, because we know that preparation, as our CEO mentioned, brings peace. Mm-hmm. It brings calmness. It brings a solitude. And so we all get it. Hopefully we're benefiting, many others out there to get their stuff and affairs and planning in order. What I want to do now is ask each of you, with the time that we have left, talk about your organization and how your work with Compassion and Choices is so important to the folks, the constituency that you serve. I'm gonna start out virtually. Ms. Lillie, did you hear the question?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Your organization and how is it serving your constituency?
Well, the name of I won't say I will say our organization is Voices for Our Father's Legacy Foundation. This organization was started in 2014 as a 501c3 organization by descendants of the men who were victimized by the United States Public Health Service study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male at Tuskegee and Macon County for 40 years, 1932 to 1972. Now, the study has been known and still referred to today as the Tuskegee Syphilis Study or the Tuskegee Experiment, a name that has been wrongly used for all of these years, over 90 years. The foundation is working to change that name because it places the responsibility, the accountability on Tuskegee and the shame by saying Tuskegee first. You're putting the ownership on Tuskegee, and that's not true. I hope everyone have heard about the study and how racist it was and how unjust and immorally wrong that the study was. And I can go on and talk about that for the rest of the day. But I would encourage everyone to look at our website, Voices for Our Fathers, and learn more about that study and what the organization is trying to do. Our main mission and purpose is to transform the legacy from shame and trauma to honor and triumph. These men were never told that they had syphilis. They were uninformed. And because of that study, the informed consent form now is demanded. So that was one of the outcomes that you could say might have been positive from that. But members of the organization, and it's unique in that these are many different families from across the country that have come together to change the legacy and to honor those men. How do we do it? We provide scholarships annually for descendants. We are also working to build an appropriate memorial at Tuskegee, where the men at Tuskegee University, where the men at the time would go for the so-called tests that they were giving or the medication that they denied them. So we are actively now, because of COVID, we were called into, I guess, the limelight, because most people were, well, not most people, but some people were using that study as a reason not to get vaccinated. And we felt that that was a wrong thing to do, and it was causing people, some to get gravely ill, and then even some to die, because they thought that what they did to the men, which was misleading and incorrect, they used that not to get vaccinated. And that was shameful. And we had thought we had a voice and we could make a difference in helping people to understand the importance of vaccination and to get all of the information that they could about it and make the right choice. So we have been interviewed nationally and internationally about helping to promote and telling the story of the study and how it has impacted medical research and changed the protocol and the ethics of medical research and health and in healthcare. And I'm still working to do that from the very top of the healthcare system, CDC, as well as NIH and every other place that we possibly can tell the story. So
Ms. Lillie, I want to thank you for the work that you have done, and thank you for your involvement from my heart, from the hearts of our CEO, from the heart of our CEO for working with Compassion and Choices, but I'm charged with moving the event forward and onward. So I want to open up the next question. I'll just direct to one individual here. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Bolden. Talk about your organization briefly and the work and how it serves your constituents.
Well, we're the Center for Black Health and Equity. About 2.5 years ago, we changed our name from NAPTN, which no one understood, which was the National African American Tobacco Prevention Network. We've been in existence for now over 20 years. We began focusing on tobacco over 20 years ago, and now we have expanded. We've expanded to include not only tobacco, but HIV and cancer. We work toward health equity and equity, social justice across the board. We are unapologetically Black, and we work in the Black community. Our focus is the Black community. And when I say the Black community, we're not talking about just African Americans, we're talking about the African diaspora. So what we're focused on is engaging our community, making sure that we work toward mental health, mental justice. And that's where our work with Compassion and Choices comes in, because when you're talking about end of life, we also are talking about our mental awareness and our mental health that's associated with the end of life, because people are, with stress, they're underrepresented, they don't have the information. So within the Center for Black Health and Equity, our focus has grown so that we include those areas in which are most affected by the Black community or by the African diaspora.
Yeah. Thank you so very much for your work. Dr. Morgan.
Yeah, so the National Black Nurses Association is a 50-year-old nursing organization that was birthed out of having opportunities for African-American nurses to be able to make a tremendous impact in our prospective communities. And so there are thousands of Black nurses across the country that are members of the National Black Nurses Association. And as a result of what the work that we do, some of the things that we've put in place is to help families and improve their end-of-life care choices. A few years ago, we've had the opportunity to partner with Compassion and Choices through the work that my sister and I do as members of the National Black Nurses Association. And we actually have a strategic platform now that there's like 70 or 80 chapters across the country, and each one of us has a champion for end-of-life care choices and advanced planning. So we have monthly meetings where we lay out certain aspects that we are to go out to our prospective communities and educate and communicate with them what their end-of-life choices and options are. And the overall goal is to be able to make a tremendous impact on how people live their lives, more importantly, knowing what options are available to them at the end of life, and then surround them with the resources, knowledge, and skills that are necessary for them to have a positive and peaceful end of life.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but in my work, I've found that it doesn't really matter where one is on the socioeconomic ladder, that this subject, this content applies to everyone. And how many folks on that ladder just aren't prepared, no matter where you are. So the conversation can still be had no matter where you are. And so I'm happy to know that you're doing your work, and I already know you're doing your work because I follow you.
You're absolutely correct. And the sad thing about it is, too often the African-American community, they always put it off like it's something that's going to get better at some point. It's inevitable. And so one of the things that we want to do is we want to help them make the choices early on so that they have more resources, they have a more enriched experience, they have enough knowledge to be able to explore how they want to have their end of life option is. And then you can involve the whole entire family, as you indicated that you did with your family as well, so that they can all be peaceful with the process. Yeah. So we still got work to do, but we out here fighting the fight.
Yeah, we are. I'm coming to you, Dr. Williams. What I do is, and anyone can do this around the holidays or special occasions with your family before you start the festivities, right? Have that conversation then and there. right? While everyone is visiting, whether it's Thanksgiving or whatever it is in your family. That's just kind of what I've started to do and try to get better at in my family. But I'm gonna digress right now because Dr. Williams, I want to hear about your organization. You are a walking history icon and book, but I want you to share with you, what you do with your organization and how you are still serving your constituents.
I'm blessed because I served almost 20 years as national president of the National Congress of Black Women, and now I'm president of the Dick Gregory Society. Obviously, Dick Gregory taught me a lot, as he did many people. He often told it to you as a joke, but I remember some years before he passed away, and we were talking about writing down things that you wanted, writing your will, what have you. And he would always say, if you've ever heard him, I ain't leaving nothing for nobody in that way. Of course, he had a lot to leave, but his family found what I had written for him after he passed away. And they were so grateful because they did have, challenges about who wanted to do what and what should be done. But they found what I had helped him to write. And they said that it helped them quite a lot to know his wishes after he had passed away. The same was true for Cicely Tyson, who was a very good friend, and I've just finished a book about her. Every time she traveled, she wanted to rewrite what she wanted in life. So I would always have to do that for her. So when I think about my mom and what she did was put it in writing, of course. She didn't have it notarized. She didn't know about all those things, but she had put it in writing, and we knew to honor what she wanted in writing. But my organization has been working with Wendy, and I've been learning a lot more since I've been working with Wendy in Compassionate Choices in terms of what should even be what you want before you pass away. As a lawyer, obviously, I've worked with wills and others, but I've now learned to talk with people, and I do. I've had Brandy on my radio program. I have a program same time as yours, 10 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time. But mine is just on a Wednesday morning. I've had someone from Compassionate Choices on my radio program about this conference. I'm going to do my regular weekly article. I write for all of the Black newspapers in the country, and I have been writing since 2008. I always say since Barack was elected president, and I have not missed a single week. So anyone who has something that you'd like to have the public know, let me know. I can do my radio program, and I can also do the articles. So I look forward to doing that. I learn more, as I said, from Compassionate Choices every time I talk with Brandy and Wendy and all of them. It's just a pleasure to know that there are things you can do to help to relieve the anxiety of people. We as a family were blessed not to have that anxiety because we kind of knew everything to do, including what color my mother wanted to be buried in and what she wanted her book to be. Those may sound like simple questions, but let me tell you, when you have to write up that book, it helps that you know everything. And my mom, I guess the best words that she gave to all of us before she left us was, "Don't worry about me. I've had a good life." And that was such a pleasure reading that after she had left us. And my sisters and I could remember all of the things that she had taught us. So now that I'm in an organization where Dick Gregory was concerned about health, you remember he used to tell us about all the things about health that we should remember. Fear, of course, and God do not occupy the same space. So I practice that every day.